Welcome to another edition of the eSpot with Camille. The eSpot is your location for the latest in entertainment, beauty, and design from the people who make it. Thanks for joining. Hello, hello, hello. I hope you're having a wonderful summer break. I know I am. And if your kids are anything like my kid, or even your adults for that matter, out there who love to play games, you're in for a really great treat. I have the senior game producer of so many top hit games and is still working on a lot of games and in person games. Like she's pretty much doing it all for the sake of fun. And I can't wait for you to meet her. Heather Chandler is now rejoining the eSpot. She's back again to share more about her endeavors and all the exciting things she's been up to. Oh, see, my screen is doing way too much because it's summer break. I don't do these things during the summer unless it's such an amazing story I have to. And since I am stuck home with two gamers, I felt it only fair that I share my angst with someone who understands and is the root to all. No, I'm kidding. I absolutely love that they're playing these games. It's great family fun. But again, thank you so much for being my guest today. And tell everyone a little bit about yourself, Heather, in case they missed the first interview, which I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on again. I really enjoy talking to you, Camille, and also love to hear that your kids and I believe your husband enjoy playing games. So my name is Heather Chandler, and I am from Heather Makes Games. I like to call myself a fun finder. Basically, what I do is someone comes and has an idea for a game. I can help them figure out how to turn that idea into reality. I've been doing it for over 25 years with video games, with escape rooms, with board games, with gamified team building things. So, pretty much whatever people need help with, I can come in and help them make that into a reality.
Well, I love that last time we talked about how you got your start because you had a art degree originally, art history degree,
Yep.
and how you explained how much you loved the tech side of things, and gaming got you the opportunity to bring both of those worlds together. But since you brought it up, now I want to talk a little bit about how do people reach out to you and what is the process, I guess, of starting making your own game if you do have that great idea now that you've been playing so many video games during the pandemic. Like maybe you've created a game that really will stick out, but just need the right person to help you
Yeah.
facilitate that. So share a little bit about that, Heather.
Yeah, so absolutely. If you want to get in touch, I have a website, Heather Makes Games, and so that's a good place to start. Hopefully, at one point, you know how it is, you get so busy. I want to put some resources up there for people who are kind of starting out on their journey of making a game. But basically, what I like to say for someone who is they're really brand new and they're like, "Hey, I've got a great game idea." Is there's a lot of resources out there where you can educate yourself just with some sort of baseline information about what it takes to take a game from a concept, turn it into a prototype, maybe get some publishers or VC funders interested, get funding for it, and then make it. One great resource I can recommend, and I'm actually the program director for this endeavor, is called Indie Game Biz. IndieGameBiz.com, and there is a Discord server, they have a YouTube channel, and it covers all topics related to the business of making games. And let's say you have an idea and you're like, I'm really excited about this idea. I would say, number one, don't be afraid to share it with a trusted group of people because you need to have other people vet the idea and to see, yeah, is this really a good idea? Once you kind of talk to a couple people about it and you're like, I think this could happen, figure out if there's a way that you could make some sort of playable prototype. Of course, I talk a lot to middle school and high school kids about games and how fun it is. And I would say most homes have some sort of board game or cards or dice. And there's got to be some way that you can figure out how to at least demonstrate what your core gameplay mechanic might be like using sort of those tools. That is a great way to get people kind of engaged and playing your idea and understanding. So your son could be like, "Hey, mom, check this thing out I made," or daughter, I can't remember actually. And then you can engage with them and then see help them vet the idea. If you are really interested in pursuing it, then I would say the next step is to download a game engine, either the Unreal Engine or Unity, And then there are lots of tutorials that teach you how you can kind of get your first game up and running. So that's just kind of, at a minimum, you need to be able to demonstrate this game to somebody so that they can then figure out what other help you might need for it.
Now, that's fantastic advice. Just even using things around your house to start it, to help you get it started, and also trusting to share it with other people. Because a lot of times people are like, don't tell what you're doing because they'll steal your idea or they'll steal your
Yep,
secrets. So I appreciate you giving that advice that you do kind of need other people's input because you don't know what you don't know. But also, you can see from their standpoint of what holes are there because maybe in your brain you already know what the completion is, so you don't see the
right.
missing steps. Um, Speaking of missing steps, I want to talk about your big step you had recently, where there was a life-size version of you, part of all these different women in STEM at the Smithsonian. Can you share how that came about?
Yes, so I am a STEM ambassador. I'm an If Then STEM ambassador, which is supported by the Lyda Hill Foundation and the American Association for the Advancement of Science. They selected 125 women to kind of be ambassadors, and our job is to go out and promote women in STEM and to talk to middle school and high school girls about it. They also helped us create press kits so that if museums or newspapers or other media outlet were looking for scientists or STEM professionals to quote in their articles, that they would have a readily available pool of women to choose from so that we could start getting more visibility of women in STEM at all of these major outlets. One of the neat things they did is that they created 3D printed life size statues of all of us. And so 2 years ago, they did a full body scan where you walked into this room that basically had like 1,000 cameras there. And they did this full 3D rotational scan, and then they 3D printed it in orange. So these statues are big, bright, and orange, and everyone's like, "Why orange? Like, what's the significance of orange?" It is because Lyda Hill, the woman who owns the foundation, that's her favorite color.
Mhm.
So fast forward, statues are done, um, and the Smithsonian Institute agrees to display the statues for the month of March to celebrate Women's History Month. So that is how our statues all ended up there, and they were displayed in the gardens and in the various buildings around the Smithsonian. My statue was part of the Futures exhibit, and it was in a building that's one of those grand old brick buildings. You walk in, there's marble flooring, there's a huge dome up top with all these windows and light coming in, and the statues are in a ring around the dome. And,
Wow.
each statue has a little blurb about who the person is and then a QR code. And it was just, wow, so surreal to think that here I was at the Smithsonian looking at a statue of myself along with all these other fantastic women who have just done some amazing things.
How exciting. Now, I have to ask, did they let you keep the statue afterwards? Is it displayed in front of your house somewhere, or is it part of your, gaming puzzle at, Whole Brain Escapes? No, I'm just kidding.
That is where I ultimately would like it to be. I do not have the statue in my possession. I think that, the group that owns it is always looking for places where they could display it. So I definitely think that we should look at trying to find a place in Raleigh. They need a
Mhm.
sizable space for it. So something like the Frontier RTP or perhaps the WRL Gardens, someplace like that. So ultimately, I don't know where the statues will go next, but I certainly hope when they're kind of done with them that either they find a permanent home someplace. I know that there was a group of Girl Scouts actually that really wanted to go see the statues at the Smithsonian in March, but they weren't going on their trip until August. So they have already started petitioning the Smithsonian to keep these on as a permanent exhibit. So I think that would be kind of the best case outcome is a permanent place someplace.
No, that would be great because so many schools, they have, DC as part of a field trip, so I think it would be so inspiring to so many women and girls to see how many of these women were involved in science and being on display, especially somewhere as big as the Smithsonian, where it's
Yeah.
known for having such historical precedents and having such great, um, I can't think of the term. Not shows, exhibits. There we go.
Yeah.
They are known for their great exhibits. But I also know that while you were there visiting your statue, you happened to see another blast from your past that was on exhibit. Can you share about that?
Yeah, so there is a video game I worked on a couple of years ago called Never Alone, and I might have talked about it on the previous time when we spoke, but it was developed in conjunction with the Inupiat tribe in Alaska. So the tribe was interested in creating a game that celebrated and shared their culture because they wanted the youth in their community to get excited about their culture, and they also wanted to bring this to the world and show what it was, a slice of life. They also wanted it to be a commercial game that somebody, even if they were not necessarily interested in learning about the tribe, would at least find the game very fun and engaging. And so the game's called Never Alone, and it's about a young Inupiat girl and her Arctic fox sidekick that go on this adventure in the Alaska wilderness, trying to um, basically there is a quest that she needs to go on, and so her goal is to complete this quest and to save her village. So this game has gone on to sell over 1 million copies. It has won all kinds of awards, and so the Smithsonian was having an exhibit about different ways to use video games to teach people about things, and so they selected Never Alone to be part of this exhibit. And so you can go and they have it all set up on the TV and you can go play it. When we were there, we actually had to wait in line to play the game because there were so many people there that wanted to just see what the game was like.
And here you thought education was just boring. Not
Exactly.
anymore.
Yeah.
There's a way to make it interactive and fun for everyone. Just ask the Smithsonian. They know how to make a line around the building just for
Yeah,
a video game. Well, not just for, but it's a way to bring culture alive for other people to experience it without having to go all the way to freezing cold Alaska.
exactly.
Now, tell everyone a little bit about the gaming process as far as what is that starting point for you? Like, what was a typical beginning point whenever you got onto these new games, whether it was like on Fortnite or other epic games you worked on, or um, you worked with a lot of different companies. So was
Yeah,
there ever like what was that procedure like? I know like for the film industry, there's like pre-production, there's production, and then there's post-production, and there's so many different hands that it goes through
yeah.
before we see it on film. And I'm curious for those who don't know about gaming. I mean, I'm one of those noobs still. Can you share more about what that process is like, bringing a game from thought to finished product?
Absolutely. It is very much mirrors a bit of what you discussed for the film and TV process. There is sort of the pre-production phase or the concept phase. That's where someone gets the idea and usually it could be one person, it could be a group of people. Hey, I have this idea. You start talking to people about it. You start, and this, I mean, honestly, this applies to most any game I've worked on, including Fortnite, including Never Alone. They all started out as ideas. Somebody say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if? As you start talking to people, people come up with ideas for stories and characters, and you really want to focus in on what's the sort of core experience you want the player to have. The interesting thing about games, as a contrast to film and TV, is because it is interactive. You have to figure out what are the players' actions and verbs that they're going to be doing while they're playing the game, because they are consuming it as an active participant, not necessarily just watching it and enjoying it while viewing it on a screen. And so the controls have to be really engaging. And what people tend to do for most of the games I've worked on is we will get a small group of people together, an artist, a designer, an engineer, and they will go off and create a playable prototype in one of the game engines I mentioned earlier. And so they just kind of throw something together really quickly. Okay, this is going to be a game about a girl who has to go on a quest. So you get the character in, you start giving it different movements, you put together a couple of the puzzles or things that she might solve, and once you have something that's playable, you send it around to people and you get feedback. So it's super important in the game business to get feedback on the thing that you're making while it's kind of in that pre-production phase so that you can really hone in on what's great. Once you've kind of done all that and you start building on that game and turning it into a real game, you can kind of roll into the production phase which is, okay, we've got the core of the game, we've got the prototype up and running, we know what the characters are going to look like, what the story looks like. Now we're going to bring the full team on. So that's when the team starts getting really large: artists, designers, engineers, QA testing. And then you might work on that game. I've worked on games that have taken 6 months to make, and I've worked on games that have taken 8 years to make. So it really kind of depends how long each one of these phases might be. So a 6-month game, you might spend a month sort of prototyping it and saying, hey, here's what I'm going to make. 3 months making the game, and then 2 months testing it and getting it released. For a game that lasts many years, usually what's happened is that you have had several different prototypes that you were kind of playing around with and iterating on different things, and you might end up throwing some of the prototypes out and starting new ones. And so a lot of times when gamers are like, why is this game taking so long? It just takes a long time sometimes to really figure out what's going to work best for the player. And when you have so many people working on it, you have a lot of points of view that you're getting feedback from that are helping kind of shape this. And then once you kind of have the bulk of the game, then it goes into the testing phase. And so then all these QA testers check the game, find the bugs get fixed, and then you launch it to the world.
Wow. Sounds very like with film, our timeline might be, who knows how long it took the person to write the book or to write the script or get to that point. But usually it's like an 8-month process, the pre-production, the actual filming, give or take. And the budgets can go anywhere from independent films can be 500,000 to 2 million. And then for bigger budgets, it's 40 million and above for the most part. I'm curious, what is the budgets like for the different games? And did you notice a significant difference when you work with different budget points? Like how much nicer is it when you finally get on the big boys table?
That is very funny. Yeah, because you're so right about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you're working with smaller teams, I mean, we are looking at games in the budgets of $1 to $5 million, with $5 million like being a lot of money for a small independent team. I've worked on a lot of games that are about $1 million or below. And that is a team, it's very small. Everybody's wearing different hats. As the producer, I'm really kind of watching all the pennies and really deciding, okay, do we need to pay to have that outsourced? Can we afford to hire somebody else to come in and do this? How much money do we have for marketing? But when you work for a bigger company like an Activision or an Epic Games or any of that, or EA, then you have more freedom, right? Because you can say, hey, I need 3 more programmers. I need 2 more designers. I need to outsource this. And once you put all that plan together, whatever that money is, most of the time the answer is yes, because they can understand why that stuff is needed. In games like that, there's not a specific price tag or budget point that I can say for some of the larger games, because honestly, they cost tens of millions of dollars to make. And now, because games continue onward with adding additional content and whatnot, it that is an ongoing cost, right? A good rule of thumb, though, that I use, like if I'm just napkin mathing, trying to figure out how much something might cost, is $10,000 per person per month. So if you're like, I've got a team of 15 people and they're going to spend 2 years making this game, you can kind of roughly figure out what that cost might be. That's sort of an average game team cost.
Thank you for that. Now, my father's a producer for films, and so I would help him a lot with planning out the budgets and days and night shoots versus daytime shoots, and just kind of making sure it made sense for filming and budgets and what actors were needed, what hairstylists, da da da. And so I'm thinking on the game side, it's like, wait, all those people have to be artists that would be hairstylists, because they're so intricate now. Like it's just like my day, they were barely above, like cartoons were definitely drawn better than the video games back then. Now the video games are way better than any animated film for most part, as far as just being so realistic, so interesting, so much going on at one time, whether they have music that's popular music, they have like these buy-ins with different celebrities coming on the show, or just recently, my cousin, that's an illustrator, he did the Wu-Tang Fortnite thing, and I was just like, "This is the coolest thing ever," because I'm actually going to the Wu-Tang concert in September. No plug, but needless to say, I just find it so interesting how it used to be considered one of those things like people in their grandma's basement were still playing video games, as opposed to now it's part of mainstream, it's part of TikTok, pop culture, like all of it.
Yep.
And it's got to be interesting from your standpoint to see how that's changed, but also you're changing this a little bit. Instead of being something that you're playing only virtually, you're also making games that people can play as a family, that's multi-generational. So tell about your new adventure that you're doing with that, and a little bit also about your not so new adventure where you still are bringing families together to
Sure.
do things together, as opposed to those those of us who are game challenged and don't have the attention span for it and get left out. I'm always the odd third wheel with my husband and daughter when they start playing their games and they have the headsets on and they're talking in a language I don't understand.
Yeah,
But I love it at the same time because I'm like, oh, how cute. They have something they can do
it's
together,
funny.
while I can go watch my Real Housewives shows, but without any judgment.
Uh-huh, that's the most
So,
important part,
so
right?
tell me about this new thing that maybe my family we can enjoy
You
together.
might enjoy it.
Monopoly. Oh my God. I'm like, this is how divorces start, or kids getting put up for adoption.
I have heard that more than once about Monopoly, yeah. There's some people I know someone that's like, "We can't even play it in our house," like, it's just, an off limits game. Just generates too
Well,
much controversy.
yeah, well, like being an only child, I think my parents played it without the rules so it wouldn't last so long because they had other
Oh,
things they needed to do. So my husband, he grew up with other siblings. So they like, oh no, you can't, like they were rule followers and sticklers. And I mean, being dyslexic might have helped with that too, because there was no way I was going to read that fine print rules to find out if my
yeah.
parents were telling me the truth or not. But needless to say, now that when we play together, I'm like, what rules are, I'm always like, I know I can do this. And he's like, what are you doing? You can't do He's like showing me stuff. So him and my daughter love playing Monopoly because they love like
That's
killing me
funny.
basically on rent. Cause I'm always like, oh, I just want to wait for Broadway. And while they've bought up the entire board while I'm
Right.
waiting for the big names. So tell a little bit about this game that probably won't end with tables getting turned. Speaking of housewives, and drinks being spilled. Just kidding. None of that happens. But needless to say, share about your new game that you have going on.
Yeah, so I'm super glad you asked about that because as much as I love video games, I also understand there is huge value in just gathering around the kitchen table and playing games with people or your family face to face. So as you know, we have a physical escape room in Apex, and we wanted to figure out a way to bring when I say we, I mean my husband because he designs the rooms and whatnot. Wanted to bring that escape room experience home. So we have a new project called Gateways and Griffins, and it is an escape
Mm.
room in a box and role-playing game packed into one box. So we really have designed this to be geared towards family and friends who want to reconnect, who want to have sort of an escape room experience and solve puzzles and find clues and pondering problems. And there's 100 puzzles in there, so you could play just that part of it over the course of a couple days, or you could take a whole weekend. It's very collaborative, so it's not competitive. It is working together to do these things, and you have to solve the mystery of these missing game designers. Now, the game
Ooh.
designers that are missing in Gateways and Griffins were working on a brand new role playing game, and it's set in the 1980s, so there's sort of that nostalgic thing to it. And
Ready
once
Player
you
One.
yeah, there you go.
All those
Once
Ready
you have
Player Addicts. That's what sticks out to me in the movie. Like, oh wait, I know that song from the '80s or
yeah,
something. Like, I
that's
remember
right.
hearing this in other movies. Or yeah, sorry.
But once you have solved that mystery, and you don't necessarily even need to solve the mystery to do this part, you can continue that gameplay experience with a role playing game. So I know I talk to parents a lot. Oh, Dungeons and Dragons. My child really wants to get into Dungeons and Dragons. I don't even know how to get started. Um, so we have included sort of a role playing game that would be easy for anybody who's never done role playing games to pick up and play, sit down with their family, create a character, go on an adventure, use your imagination, continue connecting with each other in person, and collaborating on something really cool. And so we're very excited by it because it's a combination of games that you don't normally see. Because normally you see like an escape room in a box or a role playing game. But we felt that there's a huge opportunity for families to really benefit from combining both of these into one thing because it gives you hours of entertainment. The adventures are always going to be different when you're doing the role playing piece. And with 100 puzzles, it's going to take you, a couple days to go through all of those and solve the ultimate mystery with your family. And
Yeah.
and so if you want to get it, this is sort of the kicker because it is our largest project to date like this, as we have decided to kickstart it. And if you're familiar or not familiar with Kickstarter, it's a crowdfunding platform where you offer a thing that you're going to make and you set a goal, and then people can pledge to help you reach that goal. If you reach the goal at the end of your Kickstarter, people get charged the amount that they pledged, and then they will get your game or whatever thing you've made once it is done and ready to be shipped out to them. If you don't meet the goal, then nobody gets charged, so it's very safe to do. And then, sometimes if people don't meet the goal, they might come back later, tweak a couple things and then try to relaunch it on Kickstarter. But Kickstarter is a nice way to get projects out there. If you don't have sort of like as a small business, we don't have the capital today to print all of these boxes. So if we kickstart it, we're able to kind of people can pre-order it, and then it really helps us because now we can get the artists, we can get the printing costs done, we can get the miniatures made, and all of that stuff.
That's fantastic. I was going to try to have it show underneath us, but for whatever reason, when I copied and pasted, it didn't get all of it. So I'm gonna try again. So all of those who are interested in supporting can find your Kickstarter. But if it doesn't show up here, which you can't really hyperlink anyway, but I'll
Right.
definitely put it in the comments later.
Yeah,
So
and the
people can see it.
the project's called Gateways and Griffins. So if you go to Kickstarter and search Gateways and Griffins, Griffons, you can find it. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I want to make sure that I am considerate of your time because you are a very busy person. Can you tell everyone where they can find more about you, your endeavors, and even booking, I guess, time for a whole brain
Oh, sure.
escape? Can you share all of that as well?
Absolutely. So if you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website, Heather Makes Games. If you want to follow me, I'm most active on LinkedIn, so that's a good place to follow me. And if you're interested in checking out the escape room, it's called Whole Brain Escape, and you can go to the Whole Brain Escape website and book time there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for being my guest. I do want to leave with one little quick thing because we do have 2 more minutes. What exciting things do you have coming up? What's in the future for Miss Heather Chandler?
Oh, well, I am working on a very exciting project right now. The place is called Smart Girls HQ, and this is started by a local entrepreneur based out of Charlotte. And she is interested in promoting STEM. So she has created Smart Girls HQ, where you can go for different resources to encourage your child to learn things. She also has something called the Dear Smart Girl activity kits. These are activity kits
Mhm.
that you can order. Your daughter might enjoy one. The first one is a make a light up headband. You learn about electrical engineering, creating circuits, and all of that. And then I am helping her with a game based learning platform that we are building that will be used in conjunction with the physical activity kits. So we're very
Fun.
excited by this. She got this a grant from I think the National Science Foundation to do this project, and it's just so fun to work with somebody who has such a vision for how she wants to teach girls about STEM.
Uh, How exciting. Now that sounds like a great gift for back to school, for birthdays, for summer camp, who knows?
Yeah.
So thanks again for sharing about that. I'm excited for all that you have going on. And I really appreciate you spending the time with me today. And for all those women and girls who are interested in getting involved in STEM, make sure you follow, oops, this way, Heather, and get in touch with her. Find out different ways to get yourself in the future you want. Now, do you have any networking communities that you recommend as well? Because I've heard that a lot where people in different, well, women especially in different industries, they have a hard time finding that group where they can talk about what it's like to work in the different fields, especially ones that maybe more male dominated, but just
Mhm.
in general, having that mentorship they can go to. Do you have any that you recommend real quick?
Yeah, I recommend obviously LinkedIn is a good one. For game specific stuff, Indie Game Biz, they have a Discord server. So if people are like, hey, what's that about? You can contact me through LinkedIn and I can invite you. There's a couple other Discord servers because I found like with the game communities, they have kind of migrated to Discord as their choice of communication. So you meet lots of neat people. They're in there talking about their projects. It's a great way to learn what other games people are working on because a lot of times when people want to get into the game industry, I also advise try to find somebody who's got a team already and you can kind of jump in and start doing something for them because it's a collaborative effort and everyone's always going to need a hand.
No, that's great. Thank you so much again, Heather Chandler. Make sure you check her out on LinkedIn and follow her and follow Whole Brain Escapes. And I look forward to hearing more about what you have to come in the future. So thanks again for being my guest. Thanks everyone for tuning in and watching the eSpot with Camille. Make sure you share it with your friends because if they missed it, they can always watch the replay on YouTube and check out CamilleCoward.com. Under season 4, you can watch all previous episodes from this season as well. And you enjoy the rest of your summer. Thanks again for tuning in and have a great weekend, especially 4th of July weekend. I hope you have some
That's
great
right.
fun. All right. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.